Investigative journalist Marcus Webb woke up in a hospital bed with no memory of how he got there. The last thing he remembered was a car slamming into him while he was investigating a crime story. But when he tried to sit up, something felt terribly wrong. His entire body ached. His abdomen felt heavy, foreign, different in a way he couldn't explain. The nurse smiled and said he'd been in a coma for 3 days. What she didn't tell him was that his body had been fundamentally altered while he slept. Marcus Webb was a 35-year-old investigative journalist working for the New York Chronicle. He'd built his reputation on hard-hitting crime stories, gang violence, police corruption, organized crime. He was fearless, determined, and willing to go anywhere to get the truth. Marcus was born and raised as a man. He had the build of any man, strong, muscular, athletic. He worked out regularly, lived alone in a modest apartment, and dedicated his life to journalism. He'd never been in a serious relationship. His work was his life. He didn't have time for complications. His body was his own, a source of pride. Then came the accident that would change everything. Marcus was investigating a story about underground illegal gambling operations in South Brooklyn. He'd been following leads, interviewing sources, gathering evidence for a major expose. On a cold November evening, while walking back to his car from an interview, a vehicle came out of nowhere. The impact was violent and sudden. Marcus was thrown into the air, landing hard on the pavement. Pain exploded through his body. He heard the screech of tires, saw blurred faces, felt hands trying to help him. Then darkness. He woke up in Meridian Medical Center with bandages covering his body. His left arm was in a cast. His ribs were wrapped. His head throbbed. A nurse told him he'd been in a coma for 3 days. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. "You need to stay for at least a month," Dr. Michael Chun, the attending physician, explained. "You have multiple fractures, internal bruising, and we need to monitor you for complications. 1 month of observation and treatment will ensure full recovery." 1 month. Marcus wanted to protest. His investigation was heating up. He had leads to follow, sources to interview. But his body wasn't cooperating. He could barely move without pain shooting through him. Against his better judgment, he agreed. Meridian Medical Center appeared to be a small, newly opened private hospital. The staff was professional and attentive. The rooms were clean and comfortable. Marcus had his own private room on the 4th floor. A television, comfortable bed, private bathroom. During the first week, Marcus received standard trauma care, pain medication, physical therapy, bandage changes. The medical team seemed competent and caring. Dr. Chin visited daily, checking his progress, adjusting his treatment plan. But Marcus noticed something odd. He was asked to sign numerous consent forms, more than seemed necessary for treating an accident victim. The forms were lengthy, filled with medical jargon. The staff explained they were standard procedure for comprehensive treatment. Marcus, in pain and medicated, signed without reading carefully. He also noticed that some of his medical tests seemed strange. They drew blood frequently. They did ultrasounds of his abdomen. When Marcus asked why, the staff said it was to check for internal injuries. It made sense at the time. In the second week, Marcus noticed a new doctor visiting his room, Dr. Sarah Lancaster, who introduced herself as a specialist in advanced trauma recovery. She was young, professional, and spoke with authority. She explained that Marcus's recovery would benefit from experimental treatment. Again, more forms to sign. Again, the medical jargon made it impossible to understand what he was actually consenting to. "This is all to help you recover fully," Dr. Lancaster assured him, placing the documents in his lap. Standard procedure. Nothing to worry about. By the 3rd week, Marcus's pain was decreasing. He was moving around the hospital. He started asking when he could leave. Dr. Chin kept saying, "Just a few more days," or "We want to make sure you're completely stable." But something felt off. The doctors seemed overly interested in certain aspects of his recovery. There were whispered conversations between staff members that stopped when Marcus entered the room. In his 4th week, on the day he was supposed to be discharged, Marcus felt unusual pain in his abdomen, different from the trauma injuries. It was a dull, constant ache, centered low in his pelvis. He mentioned it to the nurse. "That's normal," she said quickly. "Part of the healing process. It will pass." But it didn't pass. As Marcus prepared to leave, the pain persisted. Still, the doctors cleared him for discharge. They gave him pain medication, told him to rest at home, and scheduled follow-up appointments. Marcus left Meridian Medical Center feeling strange, grateful to be alive, but somehow incomplete, as if something fundamental had changed inside him that he couldn't quite identify. 2 weeks after discharge, Marcus started noticing changes. His body felt different. His chest was tender. He was nauseous in the mornings. His stomach bloated after eating. He blamed it on the medications or lingering effects of the trauma. Then, at 6 weeks post-discharge, he felt it, a flutter in his lower abdomen. Movement, something alive inside him. Marcus dismissed it as gas or phantom sensations from his injuries. But the feeling happened again, and again, each time more pronounced. At 8 weeks, Marcus started having severe abdominal pain. Not the dull ache from before. Sharp, intense pain that made him cry out. He also felt something else, a heaviness in his pelvis, a pressure that intensified throughout the day. He couldn't ignore it anymore. He went to St. Michael's Hospital, a different facility, desperate for answers. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, an emergency room physician, examined him carefully. She ordered blood work and an ultrasound. When she came back into the examination room, her face was pale. "Mr. Webb, I need you to stay very calm," Dr. Okonkwo said slowly. "You're pregnant, approximately 8 weeks along. There's a viable fetus with a strong heartbeat." The words didn't make sense. Marcus stared at her, trying to process. "That's impossible. I'm a man. I can't." "You have a uterus," Dr. Okonkwo said gently. "A recently constructed one, based on the surgical scarring visible in the ultrasound. And you have an embryo implanted inside it. Mr. Webb, someone performed major reproductive surgery on you without your knowledge or consent." The room began to spin. Marcus felt like he couldn't breathe. No, that's not possible. I was treated for accident injuries at Meridian Medical Center." "They wouldn't." "When were you discharged?" Dr. Okonkwo asked, her expression shifting to something darker. 8 weeks ago." Dr. Okonkwo's jaw tightened. "I need to make some calls. But Mr. Webb, I strongly suspect you're the victim of a serious crime." Marcus's journalistic instincts kicked in despite the shock and horror. He contacted the New York Police Department. He filed a report. He contacted his editor, Patricia Harris, and explained everything. His hospital stay, the strange procedures, the pregnancy he'd discovered without warning. Patricia was furious. She immediately assigned resources to investigate Meridian Medical Center. She contacted lawyers. She filed complaints with the New York State Department of Health. Marcus began his own investigation with the help of a legal team. He requested his medical records from Meridian. The clinic was evasive at first, then defensive, then compliant when legal pressure mounted. What he discovered was horrifying. Meridian Medical Center had been operating a secret experimental program. Dr. Sarah Lancaster and Dr. Michael Chun were leading researchers. Their goal was to develop the capability to surgically create reproductive organs in male subjects and implant viable embryos using IVF technology. Marcus wasn't their first subject. He was their most successful one. The consent forms Marcus had signed, while appearing to be for trauma treatment, actually contained buried clauses authorizing experimental procedures. The language was deliberately obscure, designed to confuse patients. Most people in pain and medicated wouldn't read carefully. They had performed uterus reconstruction surgery on Marcus while he was sedated. They had retrieved eggs, somehow harvested from his own body through illegal genetic manipulation. They had fertilized those eggs in a lab using donated sperm. They had then implanted the resulting embryo back into Marcus's newly constructed uterus. All without his knowledge. All while he was a patient trusting their care. When news of the discovery broke, it exploded across media outlets nationwide. Meridian Medical Center was shut down immediately. Police arrested Dr. Lancaster and Dr. Chun. The FBI became involved, investigating potential violations of federal law regarding human experimentation. Marcus's story, the journalist who became an unwilling subject in a medical experiment, became international news. Marcus sat in Dr. Okonkwo's office, staring at the ultrasound images. The baby inside him was now 12 weeks developed. A heartbeat, brain waves, all the markers of viable, growing human life. "What are my options?" Marcus asked, his voice hollow. "You can continue the pregnancy and give birth," Dr. Okonkwo said carefully. "The pregnancy is healthy. Your body has adapted well to the surgical reconstruction. Or you can terminate. Both options are medically safe at this stage." Marcus had never wanted to be pregnant. He'd never wanted to be a father. He'd spent 35 years building an identity as a man, a journalist, a person defined by his work. A baby would change everything. But the baby wasn't responsible for what happened to him. The baby didn't choose to exist in this way. The baby was innocent, created through violation and experimentation, but innocent nonetheless. For 3 weeks, Marcus wrestled with the decision. He talked to therapists. He talked to trusted friends. He talked to David, his oldest friend, who sat with him through the anguish. "I didn't choose this," Marcus said one night, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't consent to any of this. My body was stolen from me, used without permission. How do I carry a pregnancy that was forced on me?" "I don't know," David said honestly. "That's the hardest question. But I know you, and I know you'll make the right decision for you." In the end, Marcus decided to continue the pregnancy. Not because he suddenly felt paternal instinct. Not because he wanted to be a parent. But because the baby, this unplanned, unwanted, miraculous baby created through violation, deserved life. Deserved a chance. Deserved to exist in the world. Marcus decided he would give birth, and then he would figure out what came next. At 38 weeks, Marcus went into labor. 9 months of carrying a pregnancy he never wanted, dealing with the violation while his body did things he'd never consented to. His daughter, Emma, was born healthy, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, with her father's dark eyes and determined expression. When the nurse placed Emma in Marcus's arms, something shifted inside him. He didn't magically become a mother. He was still Marcus, still a man, still a journalist, still himself. But he was also her father, and he was going to protect her, love her, give her the life she deserved. Today, Emma is 1 year old. Marcus is back to investigating crime, but now he investigates with a daughter waiting for him at home. He's written a powerful series about medical experimentation, consent violations, and institutional corruption. His investigation led to sweeping changes in how private clinics are regulated. Dr. Lancaster and Dr. Chun are serving prison sentences for their crimes. Meridian Medical Center is permanently closed. Victims of their experiments are receiving compensation and legal justice. Marcus's story is one of violation, survival, and unexpected love. He didn't choose to become a father. His body was stolen and used without consent, but he chose to give him a life. And in choosing to love her, he found strength he didn't know he possessed. So here's my question for you. Could you forgive someone who violated your body so fundamentally? Could you love a child born from that violation? And what does Marcus's story tell us about bodily autonomy and the cost of scientific advancement? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story taught you something about survival and justice, share it. Because Marcus proved that being victimized doesn't define you. What defines you is how you survive and how you fight for justice.